first of all, there was a lot of issues in Burnaby around housing, as it was in much of the Lower Mainland, but Burnaby was a big focus because of what went on in Metrotown. So I think the first thing I needed to accomplish was to win the trust back of the renters and certainly the people who lived around the Metrotown area who had lost trust that the government was actually listening to them and was actually having any empathy for their issues. Many of those people were new immigrants. English was a second language. They came from countries that where they didn't trust their government to start off with, and that was becoming. They were scared to come forward with their issues because they were worried that this government would treat them the same way their government at home had treated them. So building the trust with those people, building the trust with the renters in general, again, was a big focus on what I tried to do initially. And then we were able, as I said, during my campaign, with a housing task force, we were able to bring together a 14-person task force, which worked in conjunction with the community. And all the community engagement we did around that process as well won a lot of trust back. And for what we were trying to accomplish in the housing front so that we could keep people living in Burnaby, afford to live in Burnaby, and to show that we actually wanted people to stay in Burnaby, especially our working people who we kept hearing from businesses as well, that they were having a hard time finding workforce because people were moving way out of Burnaby. So all part of the big picture of housing, which was really, I think, the biggest focus of the election. And I think I promised that we would get through a 6-month task force and start down the road of having a real plan in housing. And I think we've accomplished that. And I'm very confident that we're moving forward in a very positive direction with 6 new sites that we have come to an agreement or are reaching an agreement with BC Housing and the provincial government to be part of a model that will fund those so that we can have 1,300 new units to start with in Burnaby of affordable different types of housing, townhouses, apartments, and the different types of housing that our residents really need. So I think we've been very successful at doing both of those things to this point. So, but there's a lot of work still to do on the housing front, but we certainly have a framework in place that I believe our community believes in. Well, I think in terms of demolitions, we have slowed that way down, and we're going to ensure as we move forward that if people are being moved out of buildings, that they're being moved out in the right, respectful way, and that they will be given an opportunity to move back into the new building at the same rent. They will be given first option to move back into that new building at the same rent as they left. They will also, we haven't completed this yet, but they will also have favorable compensation to pay the rent wherever they have to move to for that period of time, should they choose to move back. So we've certainly been able to take the heat out of that issue in Burnaby, and as I said, by winning the trust back of the people who may be affected by that, what was called demolitions. So hopefully we can move forward in a very positive way and have these people move back and want to live in Burnaby when the opportunity arises. Well, the plan since the 70s in Burnaby has been for high density along the SkyTrain lines in our 4 town centers. And I think overall that's the right way to go. But the key to, I think, being very successful with that model is that we retain some level of affordability within those centers so that the people who really need to use transit can afford to actually live close to the transit stations. And we were getting away from that. And I think that's really went against the principle of having people live in our town centers and close to our transit centers.